DeAndre Blackwell was a quiet man, but don't let that fool you. He'd been through things in life that most people would never imagine. Growing up on the streets, he learned how to survive by keeping his head down and staying out of trouble. But that didn't mean he was weak. No, DeAndre had a fire inside him, a drive that most people couldn't see. Even though he didn't show it, he had a deep sense of justice that was as strong as steel. Years ago, DeAndre had put his past behind him and started over. He worked hard, stayed out of trouble, and kept to himself. But when trouble came knocking, DeAndre didn't hesitate. He had his reasons for not looking for conflict, but when someone threatened his peace, he was ready to fight back, smart, fast, and in control. It wasn't about violence. It was about protecting what was his and standing up for those who couldn't do it for themselves. DeAndre had become known around town, not because he was loud or flashy, but because he never backed down from doing what was right. Even though he preferred to keep to himself, people respected him. They knew he was a man who didn't let anyone push him around, and that was something that didn't go unnoticed. Ethan Wright was the kind of man who thought he had everything figured out. He ran the bank with an air of confidence, as if nothing could ever shake him. But deep down, there was something about his arrogance that rubbed people the wrong way. He had a way of looking down on others, especially those who didn't fit into his perfect world. To him, rules were meant to be followed by everyone but him. Ethan wasn't a bad guy. At least not at first glance. He seemed polite, professional, and even friendly to most people. But when it came to dealing with people who didn't look like him or didn't meet his standards, Ethan's true nature started to show. He could be dismissive, cold, and downright rude when he thought no one was watching. But Ethan had one big flaw: he underestimated people. He thought that, because he wore a suit and worked in a prestigious bank, he was untouchable. He didn't realize that the people he looked down on had a power of their own. A power that would soon come crashing down on him in a way he never saw coming. Malik had always been a man of few words. He didn't need to shout or make a scene to be heard. His presence alone was enough to command respect. Tall, strong, and with an unwavering calm, he was the type of person who could walk into any room and instantly capture attention whether he wanted to or not. But there was more to Malik than just his imposing figure. He had lived through challenges most people couldn't imagine. Life had never been easy for him, but it had shaped him into a man who never backed down from a fight, especially when it was about justice. He wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble always seemed to find him, and when it did, he wasn't afraid to face it head on. Malik didn't trust easily. The world had shown him time and time again that people weren't always who they seemed. But when he saw injustice, he knew it was time to act. He wasn't just a man out for revenge. He was someone determined to make things right, no matter the cost. And little did anyone know, the day would come when they would learn just how far Malik was willing to go. Detective Williams was known for being sharp, determined, and always one step ahead. His reputation as a tough cop had earned him respect, but it also made him a target for suspicion. He had an instinct for spotting trouble from miles away, which was both a gift and a curse. On one hand, it kept him safe. On the other, it made him trust almost no one. When he first heard about the case, something didn't sit right with him. He had seen enough to know when things weren't adding up. The more he dug into the story, the more questions popped up. It didn't make sense. Why was this black man, Malik, so calm when he should have been furious? Why was he always one step ahead, like he knew exactly what would happen next? Detective Williams didn't believe in coincidences, and he was sure there was more to Malik than anyone realized. But the deeper he got into the investigation, the more his own suspicions grew. Who was this man really? Was he just an ordinary guy caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was there something darker lurking behind his actions? Detective Williams couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to unfold, and whether he was ready for it or not, he had to find out the truth. Officer Blackwell didn't usually like working with others, especially not with someone like Malik. He'd heard the stories, and they didn't sit well with him. A man like Malik? He seemed too good to be true. How could someone so calm and collected in such a tense situation? Blackwell wasn't sure what to make of it. But here he was, paired up with him, and he had no choice but to go along with it. First, he stuck to his usual routine: keep an eye on the suspect, stay alert, and keep his distance. But something about Malik's presence started to make Blackwell uncomfortable in a way he couldn't explain. There was no panic in Malik's eyes, no fear, no hesitation. He just watched the world unfold around him, waiting for the right moment to act. It made Blackwell uneasy, as if he were watching something too big to understand. As the situation began to unravel, Blackwell realized that Malik wasn't just another man caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was something more, someone with skills, instincts, and a level of control Blackwell had never seen before. But the more Blackwell learned, the more conflicted he felt. Was he working with the enemy, or was Malik his only chance to make it out alive?